Robbie can figure it out. Oh yeah, you. There's always something about tree. They're like, I want this tree removed. Okay. You. About that. I did tell her. Maybe like she liked my message. When we get to the end, maybe just like start passing it this way. Like, hey. Make it like discreet. Make it look like oh.
Welcome to the joint Cape Coral City Council and Cape Coral Youth Council workshop. Today is March 29th, 2023. This meeting now comes to order. Please stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to have a moment of silence for the loss of life in Nashville at a private Christian school where 3 young students and 3 adults lost their lives. I asked everyone in this room and our community as a whole to please pray for those families and give them the strength that they will need in the coming days and weeks to try to get through this horrible time. So please say a prayer for them. Let's have a moment of silence for those families. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam City Clerk, before we call roll today is National Vietnam War Veterans Day. So I thought it was appropriate to take time to reflect on the sacrifices of the brave men and women who make up the largest cohort of American veterans. 50 years ago today, the signing of the Paris Peace Accords, which ended the American involvement on the ground in Vietnam and brought the last of our troops home. At the time, these service members never received the reception they deserved. But today, the city of Cape Coral says, welcome home to our Vietnam veterans. We thank you for your service to our country. And please turn your attention to the screens and enjoy this Vietnam Veterans tribute videos. There will be 3 videos.
Those of us who have seen battle, you understand people more and what it takes to overcome fear, to demonstrate courage, and what these words mean. Yeah, we had an impact on history. So now's the time to remind us of who we are and what we accomplished. I think it's a chance for Vietnam vets to reevaluate who we are, what we accomplished, and be proud of it. Be proud that you served. I mean, being a vet is an honor. It really is. Let's remain strong, shoulder to shoulder. Focused. Thankful to be American.
Can I help you?
Just a cup of coffee, please.
Coming right up. Oh, there's no charge.
Thank you.
Here you go.
Thanks again.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your support.
Can I take a picture?
Sure.
All right, smile. There you go.
Sir, my son would like to ask you a question.
Are you a hero too? That man said you were.
I just served as best I could.
Can we take a picture?
Sure.
Hey, smile big. What do you say?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your support.
Can I get you a refill?
Today, we join all Americans in offering a humble thank you to our 7 million Vietnam veterans living in America and abroad, and the families of all 10 million who served during the Vietnam War period. This national commemoration, authorized by Congress and established under the Secretary of Defense, honors everyone who served on active duty in the U.S. Armed Forces at any time between November 1st, 1955 and May 15th, 1975, regardless of where they served. None of these patriots could self-determine where they were stationed, and all were seen in the same way by a country that could not separate the war from the warrior as we do today. National Vietnam War Veterans Day, March 29, provides the perfect opportunity to make this right. Help us reach Vietnam veterans in your families and your neighborhoods, especially those who are isolated, living alone, or in care facilities. They deserve to know that they have earned the nation's deep gratitude and humble thanks. You can also help us honor the Gold Star families in your communities for their unimaginable loss and the sacrifices they have endured. So today, and especially on March 29, National Vietnam War Veterans Day, we hope you'll join the nation and thank a Vietnam veteran.
At this time, we would like to ask if there are any Vietnam veterans here today to please stand so you can be recognized. We'd like to say thank you for your service to our country. Also, are there any family members here that have someone who served in the Vietnam War? Please stand. We're also grateful for the sacrifices that those families may have endured throughout their time. Thank you. This will conclude today's tribute. And if you're a Vietnam veteran, please see Mr. John Castle with the Marine Corps League just outside of council chambers. We'd like to close by saying thank you for your service. We'd like to thank the families that may have made the ultimate sacrifice and lost their loved ones. And I asked our community to pray for those families. Today is just one day that they're recognized, but I know those family members wake up each and every day and experience that loss. So I'd asked our community to pray for those families, to give them strength to make it through each and every day of the year. So thank you. Madam City Clerk, could you call the roll and please include our youth council members?
Mayor Gunter,
Here.
Council members Costin. Here. Cummings.
Here.
Hayden. Here. Long.
Here.
Shepherd. Here. Steinke.
Here.
Welsh.
Here.
8 present. For Youth Council, members Brucker, Ordonez, Polanco, and Rodriguez have asked to be excused, and I will mark them so. Anchetta.
Here.
Aravallo.
Here.
Bella.
Here.
Bernal.
Here.
Eichthaler.
Here.
Little.
Here.
Negron. Osinski.
Here.
Reamer.
Here.
Zadowit.
Here.
That is 10 present and 4 excused.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Item 5 on the agenda is business. 5A is citizens input time. Citizens input is a maximum of 60 minutes is set for the input of citizens on matters concerning city government, 3 minutes per individual. Please remember to state your name for the record. We'll be utilizing the podium to my left, your right, if you would like to participate in citizens input. Seeing none, citizens input is now closed, and we will move on to the next item on our agenda. Item 5B is a discussion. B1 is the educational and school safety topic. Since Council Member Hayden is the liaison for the Youth Council, I will turn it over to him first.
Thanks, Mayor. We've kind of divided today's meeting up into 4 topics, and this first one is really important. We've had conversations during youth council meetings about what all of you have faced. I think every single one of you have been involved in a lockdown situation, not knowing what's going to happen, and involved in having to evacuate your campus and how scary that is. And then it just amplifies when we see what's happened in Nashville. So for this first category, we're going to take I'm going to go off script on you already. I'm going to bring the police chief up to, he wanted to say some things that will probably address a lot of your questions, but he really wanted to talk to you all really one-on-one, because, you know, he's feeling what's happened to this week, and so he wanted to address public safety. And when he finishes, if there's questions that maybe you didn't touch on that whoever had the public safety section wants to ask, you can. But I also want you to tell him what you're feeling. He's going to tell you what they're trying to do and what they're facing, but there aren't too many times that he gets to hear from the students in this type of setting about what you're feeling and what your days are like at school. So, Chief.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Anthony Sizemore, Police Chief. Hello, everybody. I'm glad I have the opportunity to talk to you guys. This is a representative form of government, and that's what you're studying. So not only am I talking to you, but I'm also talking to the over 20,000 students in Cape Coral that you represent. And I think by extension, maybe some of your parents and grandparents and other loved ones who have grave concerns when you guys head off to school, much as you do. Before I get into some of the questions that you had, I got them last week. A lot has changed since the time these were submitted, and sadly a lot has not changed. But first, it's important that you know that I hear you and I'm listening to you. They're 2 different things, but I and the people that I represent in this council hear you and we're listening to you. As a resident, as a father of a child who attends a school in the district, and as the police chief who has a unique responsibility of being charged with your safety while you're at school and also while you're out, I feel you, and so does this council. I've had many conversations with them about that. It's very important that you know that. Before we even go further, you're not shouting into the darkness. You're not worrying alone. We share that with you deeply. On many different levels, we wear many different hats, but we're with you. And I used to say years ago that I was jealous of school students because it was such a great time in life. I long for those days. It was just a beautiful time. And I went to school here locally. I'm a graduate of Mariner High School. But I graduated about a decade before Columbine. So I didn't deal with what you dealt with. I was actually a cop before Columbine. So I had several years as a police officer before that world changed. And then Jonesboro, Arkansas, and Sandy Hook, and Parkland, and Monday in Nashville, and countless others that have happened in between. So if I'm being honest, and I'm guilty to say this, I'm not jealous anymore of the position that you guys are in. And it affects everybody. It affects kindergartners on their first day of school to graduating seniors on big campuses with thousands of kids. And as we saw Monday, small, exclusive, private schools. And it used to just be fire drills that you dealt with and the anxieties of being a high school student getting ready to pick colleges or go into the military or go into the world, or middle school students with the changes in life that they're experiencing in all of those awkward days, or even elementary school kids who are weaning off of their parents and gaining the first taste of independence in their academic career. That's stressful enough. But now, all of those kids, every student across the country, and we're no different, has a constant hum of anxiety in the back of their head every day that we didn't have to deal with. And we understand that. But that's the bad news. Let me give you some encouraging news. I alluded to it in the beginning. We do hear you, we do listen to you, and we are working together with you to ensure that it's a safe environment for you to put that aside as best you can and learn and achieve. And my agency, the Lee County School District, who our former chief is actually the head of safety and security for the Lee County School District. We work with our private charter schools and our city public charter schools and this council. And all of us are in lockstep in commitment to your safety. And what does that look like in real life? Well, they share our vision for safety, and our vision at the police department is to be the best. Simple. Well, you need things to be the best, but they share that vision. And our SRO program, in particular, we have 30 SROs, 3 sergeants, a lieutenant, and a captain. That's bigger than a majority of the police departments in the country, is just our SRO program. And our mission, we have a motto, if you will, for all the different bureaus and units within the police department, and in particular, ours is to be the model for the country in our SRO program. And it was relaunched by this gentleman sitting to my left, and he'll speak to you from a school district perspective, but he passed that baton to me, and that mission is being carried forward. And I can't do it alone. I do it with 400 employees that I have, 300 sworn, 100 professional staff, and I do it with the 8 people up here. I do it with the city manager, and I do it with the finance director and all my other directors that have made this a priority. So what do I need to carry out that vision? I need personnel, and they give it to me. I need equipment and capital, and they give it to me. And we need to train. You can't go into a situation and hope for the best, right? I'll lighten it up a little bit. Hope is a girl I had a crush on in high school. It is not a strategy, right? That's a joke. Wow. Training is how you do it, commitment to it. We have a state-of-the-art training facility that's coming before this council that we've talked about that will ensure that we are still doing so. It is physiologically impossible as a human being, not just a police officer, but any person, to rise to the occasion and do something you've never done before, especially in times of stress. In times of stress, you fall back to autopilot, and you had better hope that your autopilot has been through what you're going through before. That is essentially what training is, and that's what we do. That's what we're committed to, and that's where I have the backing of these people sitting in front of you. So when you talk about some of the questions that you have, we're in every school. We have an SRO in every school in the city of Cape Coral, with the exception of one private school. They have security and they liaison with our team, but every school in the city of Cape Coral has at least one SRO. High schools have two, and Oasis only has one high school SRO, but you have two other SROs on your property, so you essentially have three. So at the initiation of any type of threat, there is already law enforcement presence on campus. And does anybody go to Mariner? You do. Mariner experienced a swatting incident earlier in the school year, and you had a front row seat to not only the two SROs that were at Mariner, but the 40 police officers from Cape Coral and the approximately 30 Lee County Sheriff's Office, our partners, who helped, and that place was flooded within minutes, and it was safely evacuated. And as harrowing as that was, and thank God that that wasn't an accurate or an actual event, it was a very good illustration of how these responses unfold. So I can tell you that we are prepared, and we train every day to continue to be prepared for those types of situations. But we're not just what's called a sentinel. We don't just stand there as an armed guard. The part of being an SRO, or part of being the best program or the model for the nation, is not just to be a guard, but to be woven into the fabric of the community of the school, to be part of the DNA where you see us in good times, not just bad. Hopefully there is no bad, but you see us as somebody who's rooting for the teams and joining you at lunch and encouraging you on test day and being a part of your life. That is part of the preventative measures, and recognizing when somebody is having a bad day. You usually are smiling and cheering every day, and for about the last 2 days you've been down. What's going on? That's part of intervention. That's part of finding out and being a part of that school. And if you're in it during blue skies, then when storms come, you're able to have those relationships and to break down walls and to try to seek assistance for people who are experiencing some type of a crisis. We also belong, we were the first department to receive a grant from an organization called ATAP, or the American Threat Assessment Professionals. That's typically a psychological group, or psychiatrists and psychologists who belong to that group. We were one of the first law enforcement agencies to join it. We go to their conferences, we study on it, and we are trained on how to do professional threat assessment, again, before the tragedy. And that's kind of the key theme here between training and intervention and weaving yourself into the community, is you address issues before they're issues. That's the best way to handle not only this, but most things that you're going to find in your life. So when I looked down the list of what questions you had, there were only a few that jumped out that I think were really germane that I wanted to address while I'm up here. And of course, if you have any follow-ups, I'm here for you. But there was one question in particular that said, in terms of school safety and gun violence, are you more specifically focusing on security in the school or the mental health of the students? Which do you think reduce violence in schools more? And my answer to that is, why choose? I don't think they're two different animals. I think addressing threats and working on mental health dovetail. And I think by the things I talked about before, about the culture of an SRO program, kind of answer that you tackle both at the same time. The next one I thought that was pretty germane is school, in terms of school safety and gun violence, are you more specifically focusing on, I just read that one, sorry. I get nervous too. What safety precautions can the city implement to protect students in the case of an active shooter situation? I would refer back to what I talked about: training, preparedness, When times of stress happen, we fall back to a very high level of training. And the response would be very similar to what you saw at Mariner High School. What methods are used in other regions of the U.S. that we could implement in Cape Coral? Two-part answer there. Number one, we are doing what other agencies are doing, at least progressive agencies. I think, sadly, within the last 12 months, you've seen a great disparity in response. And I can tell you that we are the response of Nashville versus Uvalde, Texas. Our officers do not wait. The model is to go where the harm is. There's not much scientific answers beyond that. We are there, and we have more coming, and where there is a problem, we are going there quick. So that's what other places are doing in the country, the ones that are doing it right. Progressive, modern, contemporary law enforcement agencies such as ours do it that way. That is the national standard for the winning way, and that's what we do. And how will we respond differently to threats of violence compared to actual violence? Well, until we know that a threat of violence is not actual violence, you will not distinguish between the two. We will respond to a threat of violence as if it is actual violence. And then a little subpart of that would be the threats that you get, the fake threat, real consequences, which is a campaign that we still belong to and subscribe to. And I think it just hits it home even further on Monday why anxieties are high and why these threats are taken seriously. But we're kind of playing whack-a-mole with those. So you need to back up a little bit and get into what I talked about earlier into the discussion, and to develop relationships and to develop pathways to be able to have conversations. And you can't wait until it's late middle school or high school to start getting people to understand that. You need to back up into the elementary age, the initiation of the digital age for kids, that with this platform, with this phone, with your TikTok account or whatever the parents allow them to do, comes a great responsibility that you cannot make these kinds of jokes, and this is why. And I think it's a team approach between law enforcement, between parents, between administrators, that there needs to be an educational process that's age appropriate for the grave responsibility that 8-year-olds have to be able to communicate with anybody in the world, and that there are real consequences to what you think is funny at 7 or 8 or 9 impacts people all the way up to 99. And I think that's where that begins. And then when they do step out of line, and when you do have a fake threat, quote unquote, you hold them to heavy consequences. There's just no other option. You look at what happened in Nashville on Monday, people aren't having it. You cannot do that. So that's my answer to that. I'm hopeful that I was able to address a lot of the things that you had. Some of these kind of combine, but like Councilmember Hayden said, and I mentioned at the beginning, part of what we're doing is active listening. So there are some things for the school district specific, and I will yield the microphone when you're ready for the safety and security director, but I am here at the mic now, and I'm sitting right here if you have any follow-up questions for me.
It's your turn.
I believe all of our questions were answered, but we do really appreciate your opinions and your time for this.
Oh, you guys can do better than that.
No, that's good, Tom. That's good.
I mean, was there anything in any of his answers that you thought, I'd like to know a little bit more about that? Or, I mean, you guys have all talked about the mental health side of what you feel in school. I mean, when you're in school and after what happened, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Is there anything, this is kind of might be a partner question for the school board representative as well as you, but is there anything, I just worry because I know that I really appreciate everything that our SROs do, but I feel like sometimes maybe just because we have like almost 2,000 kids at our school, because I go to North Lawrence High School, and I feel like maybe the mental health side of analyzing, you know, how they're feeling on a day-to-day might be too much for 2 SROs.
You're correct in
there's
that.
Something that on like the school board side that maybe we as students or the Lee County School side could do to maybe help with counselors or maybe an additional position or something that could help like support or provide additional back up for that? Because I just, is there anything that maybe we could do to support the SROs in that?
Yes, and this is a perfect segue to, there is something for that. You are correct in that 2 SROs in a 2,000 student school cannot possibly do those interactions that I talked about. It's a team approach, and I will let Mr. Newland talk about that if that's okay.
Well, good afternoon. For the record, Dave Newland, Executive Director with Lee County School District, Safety, Security, and Emergency Management. Thank you for having me here today. I just want to say on behalf of the superintendent, he sends his apologies. He cannot be here, so but I'm here hopefully, and I'll get more questions beyond this one. But to answer your question, there are several things we're doing. So right now, we supply training to all our counselors for mental health training. There actually is a rule right now that we're required by state that 80%, at least at minimum, 80% of all school employees must be youth mental health trained. So right now, our goal is to have that done by the end of June 30th. Right now, we're close to that gap right now, but even beyond the 80%, we will still continue to train until we have all 100% trained in youth mental health training. Beyond that as well, we are also looking to increase our staffing for that as well. Again, you don't have enough. We want to increase that as well. That's a big, important component. And with our threat assessment teams that every school must have, you have that person that sits on that team with law enforcement that is required. So every threat assessment is reviewed with our own coordinator that's trained to review every threat that could be a potential threat. And they have their weekly or monthly or daily meetings to review those, and they track those as we move forward.
Yes, Member Ozinski.
In addition to helping students, another concern is the safety of teachers, and how are we equipping teachers in our classrooms to, in an active shooter situation, not only protect themselves but protect the classroom? And if limited on those technologies, how do we see improving technology or tools being given to teachers in the future of education?
I missed the very beginning of your question. I apologize. There was a technology part, and I'll refer to Mr. Newland on that. There is a, and I'm sure you guys have seen it, the strategics. I don't know if you can speak to it. Okay. What was the first part of your question? I apologize.
What are the current tools teachers have to protect themselves in the classroom along with their students?
Okay.
As Chief Sizemore mentioned earlier, one of the biggest components you can have, the biggest thing to remember is training. So we have a lot of technology we've implemented in our schools so far, and we have more coming. But I stress all the time, as well as my staff, to all the principals, every employee, that every person must take responsibility and accountability to look at security. Everybody must maintain that when you're walking around, don't put your blinders on, but pay attention to what's going on in your surroundings. If every person takes part and takes responsibility, we would be successful. So when we train, as you know, through Alyssa's law, we have something called Syntegics, which is a panic alarm that every employee carries at the school district. I don't know if you've seen that. And I'm sure you've gone through those drills. So when you do those drills, the staff will train with you. They are trained prior to that. And we have our meetings at the school district office. We go over scenarios. I stress to the principals, go through and look at a situation and talk about, if this was to happen at our school, what would each person be responsible to do? What would you do? We also encourage, when we do drills, don't do them at the most convenient time. Because if something's going to happen, it's going to happen when it's not convenient. And everybody needs to be trained for that. Don't do it during lunch period. Do it during parents are dropping off or parents are picking up. Do it at the worst times, because we want everybody to be trained properly on how to respond to that. But teachers are trained on what to do in different situations. There's something called the ALICE training that was received in a grant. I think Chief Sizemore had mentioned as part of that as well, that everybody's trained as far as how to respond to, if you're in your classroom, obviously, you're held up in your classroom, you don't leave until law enforcement comes for you, but there are other things you can do as well. So they get that training as well in different situations. We even talk about if something was to happen and you're outside on the field with a group of students, what do? You're not inside, where do you go? So we talk about all those scenarios. We will walk through and it's all based on also school design. So we look at all those things.
One more follow-up. When you're on spring break or you're on summer break, we are actually in the 26 Lee County School District campuses, the 4 city charter school campuses, and the 3 private charter school campuses all summer, any school break, and do on-the-ground training with staff and with our team to do just what you talked about.
Member Reamer?
So my question focuses on the after effects if unfortunately an event was to happen like this. Is Cape Coral Police Department prepared to up the security, or what are the measures taken to ensure security and alleviate the stress of the students and get them back into the school?
The short answer is yes. The question that I would have to myself as a professional is if you already have better measures than what you're doing, you should have been doing those better measures from the beginning, right? So we want to go in with the most secure campus that we can do, but obviously there is no perfect scenario with that. And if something were to happen, there would be a large team effort with the school district to provide mental health counseling. There would be a large rate of absenteeism. There would be a lot going on, and we would have a very visible show of presence to help with that psychological healing if that's what's warranted. So we should be doing that already, but in reality, yes, we would be providing a lot more.
Yes, Member Bella.
You've been talking a lot about like when the situation actually occurs or afterwards or training for when it happens, which I appreciate, but it's also I don't know if that would be a police department's issue, but what are our schools doing to, I don't know how to word it. What are schools doing, or what is the police department doing to make sure that someone tries to not come to this, like the threat doesn't come to the school?
Like actual target hardening of the school,
Yeah.
like fortifying the
Is there
building. That's an ongoing process to get better and better and better. I can tell you that I know at the city charter schools over the last few years, there's been a lot of target hardening with fences and gates. It's a conversation that I had with one of the council members earlier today. In a perfect world, security would be absolute, but when security is absolute, convenience is gone, right? And aesthetics and welcoming feel. So I'm a visual learner, so if you could envision a glass of water that is completely filled to the top, there's no room for more liquid. And that is security. There is no room for a spoonful of convenience. If you want to add it, you take a spoonful of security out to add a spoonful of convenience. And the more convenience or aesthetics or welcoming or touchy-feely or the old ways of school that you want, that's how much more security you have to remove. So we are as full of glass as we can be without it being an environment in which you would not go. Does that make sense? And it's a constant adjustment to ensure that we have the most fullness of security, and if we can add more, we add more. But we also want to have an enriched experience where you should enjoy some of it, right? So that's the balancing act that we all do, that we partner with to do. I hope that answers it.
Thank you. Member Arabella?
This is more of just a comment, but alluding to what you said earlier, and we've been talking about physical security, and of course that is, like you said, convenience is a priority for high school students, teachers, going outside, things like that. But I feel like we should focus more on in the school training with teachers and students. I'm going to talk about one time at North, we did have a threat during lunch. I was next to the kitchen when our threat went off, and I had to hide in the kitchen with everyone in the lunchroom. So I feel like, going back to what you said, we should do those drills during lunchtime, during passing, during all these different types of situations, because I know my school, we're trying to do it at the most convenient time. We're trying to do it when teachers don't have tests or when we're doing the most important lesson. We're trying to steer away from those convenient times, but I feel like that's just doing us a disservice. So I'm very glad that you're advocating for that because I feel like at least our school should try to do that more.
And tell them what happened when the pan dropped, or whatever dropped.
So when we were in the kitchen, a pan at the front of the kitchen actually fell, and I was next to the door that leads you open, and I got trampled because a bunch of people ran out of the door when they heard the pan, and I got up because my friends pulled me up, and I was trying not to cry, but I started running out because I really thought someone was there. And I decided to jump over the gate of our school because I really thought someone was there. And I ran to someone's house that's outside of our school because I was really scared. And I think that I still hold that anxiety till now. But it's just something that I'm really passionate about. And I think that, once again, we should be doing these drills in different situations because I know I was prepared and I was doing my fight or flight to climb a fence. This was actually a couple days before one of our youth council meetings, and I came with cuts all over my legs and bruises everywhere because I had to climb a very tall fence. And so as you can tell, I'm very emotional, but it really is scarring going through something that wasn't even real, but I felt it was real. So these drills should be done more effectively, and I yield back my time.
I think you're about the best representation of how people are feeling about this. I'm glad you said that, and lucky for you, the person that actually makes that happen is right here. So you picked the right time to tell your story.
Yeah, I wanted to say, I know when you mentioned that definitely I knew there was a swatting event that happened, and we actually went to that school the next day and walked through the whole scenario. I remember that the principal was talking about what happened with the pan dropping. And I just want you to know, too, and that every incident that happens like that, we have an after-action debriefing. We bring everybody in, law enforcement, everybody involved, to look at what happened. We always want to improve. You know, what could we have done better? What went wrong? You know, if we can find things to improve, we're always going to do that. So when we looked at that situation, we talked about that scenario that day or the next day. So, but thank you for bringing that up.
Yes, Member Osinski.
Earlier, we talked about mental health training for teachers, but with the student body population, I know that most of us receive very minimal mental health training, if any at all. And when it comes to receiving threats, most of the time students are about the ones who hear it first. And most of the time there is a fear of not being believed or being blamed or being targeted because of reporting a threat. What training and tools beyond just the anonymous computer systems that we have now are being implemented to make students not only more aware about mental health threats in schools, but have more communication with people who can actually assess those threats?
What we're trying to do right now, we're trying to supply other avenues to report things that you mentioned. You hear something anonymously, we want to make sure that anybody that reports that to us is comfortable and knows that we maintain that respect of wanting to report it. I mean, we know that Fortify is in your Chromebooks. A lot of tips that we get are through Fortify. A lot of tips we get are called in through the emergency line, or they're told to maybe the SRO or maybe to an administrator. But we have encouraged that as much as we can to, you know, as we move forward, that we want students, as you all of you, to feel comfortable reporting things to us so they can be investigated, because you're the ones that hear things and see things that we do not. And I've had a couple conversations with some of our students of asking that same question that you mentioned. What can we, as a school district, do better to make that happen? So I am very like to hear maybe some of your suggestions that we can do to improve.
I think probably one of the biggest things that I see firsthand is that many of the schools don't educate about mental health, or it's seen as maybe a taboo topic to talk about with students. It's not something that we sit down and talk about in our classrooms or with our teachers. And I would like to see that maybe in the beginning of the school years in our school, that we take the time to sit down and not only talk about the importance of mental health, but talk about the signs of a student in crisis and how we can not only help those students, but get those students to the right people who can prevent threats from in our schools.
Okay, thank you. I'll make sure I bring that up to the superintendent and make that recommendation. Thank you.
Any other? Yes, Member Little.
I feel like we also have another issue of, I know like sometimes us students don't take drills entirely seriously because we're forced to grow up around these trauma. We're still kids in a way, so it's hard for us to always be serious, but I've noticed at least 2 different scenarios of teachers not being serious, where they're like, okay, we'll turn the lights down a little bit, you guys still do notes. And I feel like that's a very bad thing. I was wondering what your thoughts were about that.
I was told that by another student, by the way, and I wasn't very happy about that. I'll be honest with you, I was very upset when I heard that. Because we lead by example. And as teachers, if we don't take it seriously, then why would you? And I know from the students I've talked to, they want to feel safe coming to school so they can concentrate on what you're there for. It's get a good education and enjoy your high school as a good memories, like we did, we talked about. So I had a meeting with a lot of the principals and assistant principals, and I stressed that very openly in an open meeting with everybody there, that this is what I was told. And basically, if I hear about this happening again, I will report it higher up. That every person should be taking this seriously. I don't care what they're doing at the class at that time, because maybe it's going to interrupt their homework period. It doesn't matter to me. My thing is, when a drill happens, you take it seriously, because when the time comes, I want every person to know what to do. So again, thank you for bringing that up. But yeah, we did stress that. We talked about that. I talked to their supervisors. That's why we stress it's so important as well. Like I mentioned before, we want these done when they're not convenient. And it's not, we want to make sure this is when these things happen. We saw these past swatting calls, the ones that happened at Mariner High School, North High, South Fort Myers High School. These happen at times that they usually don't plan for. So that was very important. We looked at that. That's why this has to be done that way.
Any other questions on this one? This is probably the longest this council's ever been quiet for a public meeting, so I'll ask, is there any response from anyone on the dais at this point?
I've got a quick question. And I agree with our police chief that first and foremost, we have to make sure that our police officers who are serving in these schools are well-trained and have a plan. And I had gotten a first look because when we had the incident, it was at Mariner. I was there about 30 minutes after the call, pulled up there. The police chief was there, about 70 police officers. So I saw firsthand exactly what goes on with a call like that. My question is for you two individuals, maybe Mr. Newland. As we all know that training is our best way to move forward with any type of scenario in our schools. When you look at that training, that's our police officers that are responding. How are we going to approach a call like that? But when you take a look at a high school, say it has 1,500 to 2,000 people, you probably have 100 staff members at that school, which I'm assuming that get training throughout the year or each year on exactly how to respond to a call like that. But more importantly, what type of training are we giving the students? You know, because they're a large part of this process. You know, we may have 80 police officers there, we may have 100 faculty there at the particular school, but we have 1,500 to 2,000 students. Is there any training that we do on a yearly basis for them? You know, when I went to school many years ago, the worst I had to worry about was a fire drill. And I remember 2 or 3 times a year, I'd have those fire drills. And, you know, we knew exactly what we were supposed to do, and we walked out to a designated point outside. So what type of training do we give our students? What type of, you know, education do we give them each and every year for a scenario like this?
We encourage the schools, and again, we talk about the active assailant drills, lockdown drills that we do. We do certain things called there's lockdown, there's lockout. We're actually getting ready to implement something called a hold. They're secure. We talk about you mentioned the fire drills. So all these things we talk about, we have asked staff to talk to the students and train them as far as how should they respond, what to expect, what to look for. You know, when a drill happens or when actually a situation happens, what should they be doing? Whether they're either in the classroom, excuse me, in the classroom, or when, you know, Centegix is the system that when it goes off, there's strobes that are flashing, it takes over all your desktops, it flashes lockdown, intercoms will say lockdown, it goes right to our local PSAP, so all the law enforcement agencies are notified to respond. So we go through those scenarios, talk about this is what you're gonna see, it's gonna be loud, but get to a safe place, get to an area that you can be secured, get out, stay out of the hallways. We talk about, well, you know, if you're, like I mentioned before, you have to be on the field, what do you do? I had several conversations with schools, don't bring them to the threat, but get away from the threat. Find a place off campus to evacuate to instead of going towards the school. So for that, we talk about those type of things, of how to respond to these type of situations. That's probably the biggest discussion. I can tell you that we are working on a countywide reunification plan right now. Then a large scale will involve a lot of training with everybody. All the agencies are involved. Obviously all of our employees, but also this is going to involve a big part of the students too, knowing what to do and what to expect, and our parents. When a situation like this, how should they respond? What should they do? You know, we would encourage them not to come to the school. When a lot of times, obviously, that happens, you get text messages from your child, that's where you're going to go. You're going to go right to that school. So these are things we're trying to look at now and add more training as we go forward.
Yeah, I think having those active shooter drills, you know, for everyone, I think is a learning experience. And you two know as well as anyone, to be the best prepared, you have to go through that process, that training. And I think that's at all levels, even the students. You know, it's unfortunately, we find ourselves in a society today that our students in our schools even have to have these type of drills, but unfortunately, I don't think we have a choice. And just the events that happened this week just, you know, remind us of that. So I want to thank everything that you two do to make the students of our school as safe as they can. And, you know, because of your efforts, the police officers that are in your schools and all their efforts and their training, we're here to try to make your day as safe as possible each and every day that you attend school. So thank you two for what you do.
Got a couple lights on.
Councilmember Steinke, I see your light on.
Yes, thank you. Chief, you mentioned asking for the equipment required for your force to do its work. As this has become more and more of a prevalent issue across the country with school safety, I know that there has been innovations in school equipment as well. And I don't know whether it was the local news or the national news that I saw a piece of equipment where what looked like a whiteboard wall literally became a bulletproof safe room for all those in the classroom. And I'm wondering if, whether it's the school board or our law enforcement agencies, are you know, taking a look at and evaluating some of the safety equipment that could be placed in the schools for a more immediate response and a very, you know, a close engagement that would you know, cut a great amount of time away from having to actually evacuate the school. Do we have that going on, of evaluating new equipment that the schools can actually be equipped with to assist in the safety of the children and the teachers and the staff?
The short answer is yes. There's innovation and research on that innovation and implementation of new products and software and hardware. As a matter of fact, I still speak with Chief, I still call him Chief Newland. I talk with him several times a month, and after the hey, how you doing, it's right into making the schools better with the things that you're talking about, with new detection hardware and software, with hardening hardening implements like those whiteboards, and there's a lot of things like that that are constantly being reviewed and seen if they're applicable for our campuses.
Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Cummings.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the whiteboard, but I also wanted to bring up too, I understand how you guys are feeling because, you know, I have twin boys and they have great concern anymore about what goes on in the schools. So the one thing that I just did for my twins, they will be 17, is I ordered them bulletproof backpacks. And with that, I'm putting a like a skill safety together in that. So God forbid, I pray it never happens, but I'd rather them be prepared than not prepared. And I know, unfortunately, a lot of people can't afford that because they are pretty expensive, which you're aware of. But I told them that if we did protection like this, and if something would happen in the school, we can use that, and you would learn how to use that as a safety net to protect yourself, to put on guard if you're running, to hide. I think this is something that would be a good tool that we can look at to see what we could do for these children, and maybe teach them of how to prepare for an emergency. Because it is hard as a mom. I can't be with my kids 24/7, but I can teach them how to protect themselves or someone that they're with. And unfortunately, a lot of children don't have that. And I feel that if we can put something like this together for our students in these schools, they have more of awareness, how to protect themselves or protect their loved ones. I know my son, he hated the fact they had a scare drill and a girl was crying and it was dark. And he said, I want a flashlight. I don't want her to have that fear anymore. So I was very proud that he was just not thinking of himself, but thinking of others too. So I don't know. I feel there are some things available for people that can't afford this that we can look into maybe helping somehow, some way. But you're aware of a lot of the equipment that's out there, but for their protection, their safety, I mean, how do you feel about this, Chief Sizemore?
A couple different things. Yes, I agree. Anything that we can do, when we're talking about our children, there's nothing you wouldn't do. So, but it almost feels like we're caught in halfway between reality and a bad dream where we're actually having this conversation, you know? And that's certainly not what, I'm not attacking what you're talking about. It's a great idea, but wow, it's surreal that we're talking about providing bulletproof backpacks for kids, but it's the reality that we're in. I would never say no to anything that's going to fortify a school or protect a precious human being, 100%. It goes into practical application, training, and of course, the number one would be expense. Yes, I would be fully in support of something like that. The funding conversation, I would probably have to exit on that.
I know that that's what's hard, but through what we've been witnessing, it does feel surreal, and I'm with you. That the times that we're living in, I never thought that we would be, in my lifetime, looking at something like that for my children. Unfortunately, I'm going to do everything I can for their protection. But this is something you guys can also look into. You guys are, wanting to learn about all these things. You can kind of look into what kind of opportunities are out there for your school systems. What can you guys do to provide resources and taking a lead to say, hey, here are some ways that we can protect ourselves in case something like this happens. I will definitely follow up to see what we can do on our end. And I do understand that there are families that don't have this kind of money and they wish they had this kind of money to buy these kinds of things. But I feel like maybe some non-for-profits, people, grant funding, there are things out there that maybe we can reach out to see what we can do to help, families that would like something provided like this for their children. And it was very hard for me to even hit the buy button because I couldn't believe I was doing that. But after the Nashville shooting, I was just to the point, this is just too much. So we up here understand, we're all parents, grandparents up here, and it is heartbreaking. We worry all the time for all you children that are out there going to school. And for the one that got trampled, I'm sorry that happened too. I know that was probably, but remember, we go through things in life and makes us stronger. So you learned a lot from that situation. And now you know probably what to do the next time, if it ever happens again, kind of what to do. So I think it was very heroic of you to even be in that situation. You came out and you could tell the story, and you could be a voice for others. So I think it's a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other lights on. Any other comments from the Youth Council?
Member Osinski?
Earlier, Mayor Gunter had referred to lockdown training in schools. My biggest concern is, what about first aid training in our schools? I know from a high school level that usually there is just one SRO and one teacher in our classrooms. And in the event that someone gets injured or the teacher gets injured, how are we preparing students to respond to those situations? And what tools are we giving those students to have the know-how to ensure the safety of their classmates or themselves?
Sure. And I think it's a question for both of us as far as what the schools are doing. Mr. Newland could better answer that from a tactical perspective. And you guys know tactics are when we're doing stuff. If there is you're talking a active threat school violence situation, part of I'll say the quiet part out loud. While that's going on, we're not doing first aid. Quite frankly, we're stepping over injured to go stop that threat. Once that threat has been eliminated, then we start doing first aid. And by that time, the scene will have been declared secure, and you're going to have EMS, fire rescue, and in the case of just the most recent one that we had, you'll have about 70 officers on there. Our officers have tourniquets on their person to help with wounds such as that, military-grade quick clotting things. So when you're talking about first aid, it's a different level of first aid. It's sad to say it's a combat level of first aid. We have that on our person, but if we're actually going to address what happens during an actual active threat, we move on until we find the threat. And you guys you need transparency. You need to know the truth. That's what's happening.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Member Bella?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I know you talked about how over school breaks and stuff, you guys are on our campuses actively, like, doing trainings and stuff. But what's, like, a specific example of, like, what you're actually doing?
They're reality-based scenarios of an actual active threat at a school. It would be what you saw on the body camera video from Nashville minus the actual legitimate bullets flying in there. There's simunitions, there's training rounds, but there are real human beings running through that school and learning what it takes to get out of your car and run in. And it sounds common sense when everything's 72 degrees and cool. But when that's happening and you hear it go over the radio and you get sensory deprivation and you don't know how to think and you have no more fine motor skills, all you can do is hit bluntly, that's what I say what I mean when I say you fall back to training. You go into autopilot. And if you've done that several times, dozens, hundreds of times, when something happens, in a sense, you shut down part of your brain and go into that survival mode, and instead of fight or flight or fleeing, our fight or flight is running in. And you're going to do what you've done before. If you've never trained before and you run in and he tells me, go in there and get him, and I've never practiced going in there and get him, I'm probably going to walk in a circle, or I'm going to be lost in space. So doing the physical training, replicating it as real as possible, having simulated rounds firing back at you while you're running, and the sirens going off and loud and actors and actresses screaming to make it as scary as possible so that when you see scary again, it's not the first time you've seen it. It's not the first time you've done it. That's what we're doing. We're doing the real deal. Just like for athletics, if you're going to go out and play football on Friday night, if you haven't had any pads colliding all week in practice, or you haven't practiced also, if you just showed up and played on a random Friday night, you're going to get smoked. And it's the same thing with that to a much higher degree, if that makes any sense.
Any other questions? All right, I'd like to thank our police chief and Mr. Newland. I appreciate you guys coming here today on this topic. And thank you for all the insight that you gave us and the Youth Council and our community. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda to discuss 5B2 is environmental concerns. Councilmember Hayden.
Mr. City Manager, is Maya prepared? Does she have the questions? Or who's going to be the speaker on this part? Yeah, maybe if she has the questions, maybe we just keep with the same theme. If she doesn't, the students can ask the questions, but if she has them, she can just go down the line and the students can respond afterwards. Huh? Well, we'll let the students ask. Who had the environment questions?
So we didn't establish who has different subjects. We were just going down the line for questions for each person, but I can just start now.
Just start?
Yeah.
You're good.
So the first question we have today is Cape Coral acknowledging wildlife's translocation as the city expands and continues its construction?
Good evening, Mayor and Council and Youth Council members. If I may be of help, maybe, I identified out of your 10 questions, 4 were touching on resiliency and adaptation to environmental change. 3 were pertaining to algae issues and water issues. And 3 were pertaining to wildlife and plants. So I can either answer generally to each topic, or I can answer each of the questions individually if you'd like.
Yeah, and we can maybe get somebody else if you want to ask a question specific to water quality and resiliency that you see on there.
I can answer each topic, but yeah.
If you want to just go down the line, number one deals with construction and transit. Vince can speak about that.
All right, that's fine.
Monitor what they're
Yeah, that's fine.
Vince Katera, Development Services. So what we do during our development review process is work with various agencies as well as our friends, our partners, the Friends of the Wildlife, who help us create databases. And then we know where the species are located, where they habitate. And of course, the 2 biggest that we track in Cape Coral that we have protection for, not only at the state level, but we actually have local ordinances of gopher tortoises and burrowing owls. So there's different options developers have. Gopher tortoises, it's a little bit easier for developers to provide protection on their site, but they can move them off-site. And burrowing owls, since they're migratory, it's an issue of not developing when they're actually nesting. And if they do receive a permit, a developer, they would have to pay because we're losing habitat where the species would migrate to. Eagle is one also, but it's federally protected, but we have a very stringent local ordinance, and there are very strict rules on when construction can take place when an eagle fledges on a particular nest on property. So those are the 3 main species that we deal with in the city. There are others, of course, but they're not as prevalent, like fox and other species that you would find perhaps in the northeast of the Northwest, where there's more rural properties or uninhabited properties.
Vince, you have the whole list? Do you have the whole list with you?
Not the whole list, no.
Mike,
No?
I'll just go down.
Well, I think if I may,
Yeah.
there's a couple other things in here that are.
Oh, I have the list of questions. I thought you meant of species.
So the second to
Sorry.
last one, sorry. The second to last one deals with how we deal with heat waves and cold snaps and how we incorporate, maybe you can just touch on how we incorporate shade trees and different elements in development requirements.
Yeah, when developers actually come in and apply for permits on properties, we have requirements so that they have to provide a certain amount of trees on property, and we try to have as many trees on property that provide cover for heat. More and more development is requiring more trees on the site. A single family, for example, is minimal, 3, but when we have larger developments like shopping centers or office developments, we require more of those, and we try to have them placed in strategic places where people are going to be walking. Another big issue that we work with the Public Works Department on all the time is when we make plans for roadway improvements, or when developers have to create roadways and pathways in their development, and we try to assure that we have enough trees in order to line that roadway so that it's not only aesthetically pleasing, but it provides some cover as well.
You want to continue on?
The second question we have is, what is Cape Coral planning to do to limit its greenhouse gas production?
Persides, can you come up and talk about our fleet analysis with electric vehicles? And then I'd like to have Maya talk about, you're doing the greenhouse gas study, correct? First one.
Good evening, Persia Zambrano, Interim Public Works Director. So Fleet is doing an analysis for cost efficiency in using electric vehicles. In addition, we're working, or at the same time, through the MPO process in establishing like corridors with electric chargers to really incentivize the population to get electric vehicles so it becomes easier to recharge. So I know at the regional level, there is a lot of interest in trying to move into new technologies that are more efficient and better to the environment.
Sure. So one of the first thing you have to do before you talk about reducing the greenhouse gas emission is actually knowing what is it that you emit. So the city is working to get its first inventory of greenhouse gas emissions this year. And but while this is a first step in a very long-term project, it doesn't prevent us from starting other projects. And one of them, which is very important for green gas emission, is the tree coverage. So tree planting, the city is working really hard to plant more trees and also implement renewable and other sources of energies. They are with things that are not nature-based, but are human-based solutions. There are issues that we need to take into consideration, which are infrastructure cost to install, but also to maintain. So all of those electrical solutions, solar, and so on, we need very careful consideration.
The next question that we have, which we did kind of allude to with the second question, was what is Cape Coral doing to keep up with renewable energy resources and incentives? And I think we should focus more on the incentives, in my opinion.
Do you have some thoughts and ideas you'd like to share that we can let you know if we're already doing them, or?
Personally, I do not, but because I know I didn't write this question, but if anyone else on the Youth Council does have incentives or ideas, I think we should bring it up now.
Does Youth Council know how many electric charging stations we have in Cape Coral?
far as I'm aware, there's only one, at least for Tesla. I don't know about any others.
There is one there's been the one at the Hampton on 47th? Yeah. And so we also have in our new parks, as part of the Parks Go Bond, we're not putting in the actual charging stations, but we are putting in infrastructure and circuits so that at some point at a later date, when we develop a policy on how to provide them, whether or not they're going to be for free, whether they're going to be for a fee, we have the infrastructure in place so then we know what actually to buy and put in the park. So we're doing that as well.
Question 4.
All right, our next question is, does Cape Coral plan to push harder to eliminate invasive species and plant life?
Want to talk about our pepper tree program?
Yeah. So we have a pepper tree program that tries to reduce invasive. I mean, the task is large in order to reduce the amount of pepper trees and invasive that we have. But we do try, and as part of development, every time a site is developed, the owner, but per our code, they have to remove the invasive species. So we have provisions in the code, and in addition, we have this program that we are inching up, reducing the invasive pepper tree every year. So, and actually, we used to have this program used to be complaint-based, so people will call us and we will try to, based on the budget, remove the species that were brought to our attention, and we will have a list of locations to address. And now we're shifting, we're trying to do unit-based, so more concentrated areas, because we think we can find some efficiencies there.
And then, Vince, do you want to touch on the requirement in the code to remove any invasives at the time of development?
Yeah, when a development takes place, all exotic and invasive species have to be removed from a site. And you see this quite often in the city because of the prevalence of it. So it is a requirement in our codes. So it's costly for developers, but it's definitely needed for environmental protection.
Okay. We're also wondering what programs the city is currently using or implementing to reduce red tide, and what has your process going about fixing it, and what have you found to be working and not working to reduce it?
And Mike can combine that with the question that's down a little bit further about what citizens can do to possibly combat red tide.
Maya, you want to talk about red tide efforts with schools or educational?
Sure. So the city is not affected by red tide because in general the city canals are not salty enough. So the effort to combat red tide are really on the range of regional water policy issues. So one of the things that we do is that we participate on regional conversations such as Fleco-Kechobi System Operating Manual to try to reduce the amount of nutrients that can be washed out to the estuary and the Gulf. Red tide is naturally occurring, and has been so for many, many years, but excess nutrients from land can fuel a bloom that's already existing. And so what can be done locally is to reduce human-made excessive nutrients. So it goes with abiding by fertilizer ordinance, trying to reduce pollution, participating in programs from the state to reduce nutrient at the sea level by implementing programs such as septic to sewer and other programs such as reusing water. That's a general thing.
Jeff, would you mind touching on the Caloosahatchee Connect and the septic to sewer programs that we have?
Sure. I'm Jeff Pearson, Utilities Director here. Some great questions. Thank you for Currently, we are constructing a large diameter pipeline under the Caloosahatchee River. It's known as the Caloosahatchee Connect project. We currently have the upland portion from Horton Park completed up to our Everest Water Reclamation Facility on Everest Parkway, right there along Veterans on the south side of Veterans. That project's been underway, under construction about almost a year now. The pipeline under the river, we just had the groundbreaking last week, and that is going to start next month. It will be a world record directional drill under the river for that type of material. It's called fusible PVC. Some of the things we can do to guarantee our water supply during the dry season, the number one item is to conserve the water that we do have by following the city's 2-day-a-week, 4-hour per watering schedule. Also by diversifying our water supplies, which we're currently doing by taking the city of Fort Myers wastewater that's currently being discharged into the river, which has, like Maya was saying, a lot of nutrients in it, primarily nitrogen and phosphorus, which feed those algal blooms. And we're going to be removing approximately 50 tons of those nutrients each year that are currently being discharged into the river. So every little bit, it's just one piece of the puzzle to solving some of the water quality issues in the river and in our surface water here. Also, we are nearing 100% design on a pipeline running down US 41 from a soon-to-be mined out rock mine. It's actually in Charlotte County on the west side of 41. We are planning on building approximately 3.2-mile pipeline, and that water will flow into Gator Slough, which Gator Slough basically feeds all of our freshwater canals north of Pine Island Road. So also, we, in the past year, we completed construction of Weir 29 that allows us to store more water in Basin 4, which is a very large basin in north of Pine Island Road. That project allows us to store about 800 to 900 million gallons more water. So, because the key to getting through the dry season is being able to store that water during the rainy season, because it's pretty much feast or famine. We either have a whole lot of water during the rainy season, or we don't have enough during the dry season. So in order to make it through that dry period, which we're experiencing right now, extremely dry period, we're about 5 inches below normal. So if you see those canals really low, it's because we just haven't received the normal rainfall that we normally do, even during the dry season. Also, in the past year, we completed the Pine Island Road booster station and 2 5-million-gallon tanks. Those tanks actually can store rainwater. When the rain falls on top of the tank, it actually can go into the tank. We're doing everything we can to combat some of the issues that we're experiencing with the weather. That plays a big part with the persistent droughts that we keep having during the dry season. We're not getting that normal rainfall that we normally do. So that's where we're at now, and also we are going to be bringing forward an irrigation ordinance that will try to achieve a 70% efficiency for the irrigation system, any new ones being installed. which will also save, at a minimum, we're expecting at least a 30% efficiency for every new system that's going, that will be installed with a new home or business. Thank you for allowing me to speak on that matter.
Thanks, Jeff. Remember, Bella, why don't you drop down to the last question in that category?
Oh, the last question.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. So what are a few ways that you guys, as a council, are trying to protect native species in our cities? Any efforts?
That one's for council.
Yeah, that one's for council. Council was too quiet.
So repeat the question again?
What are ways that you guys have been trying to protect native species in the city?
And give your examples of.
Any programs that you guys have tried to implement?
At last meeting, we talked about the burrowing owls, and I know you talked about with Hurricane Ian and removing trees. I know there's been a whole thing with burrowing owls. Could you possibly talk about that or other native species in Cape Coral?
I think I'll let staff address that.
So Terry, you're out there, right? What, yeah, do you just want to talk about the training and what you do with the, I mean, as we, the example they discussed
Just
was
update them on what
the
we were
debris
removing
removal.
from the
So
edge of the.
explain kind of what you've done with the protected species training and, you know, the walkthroughs and.
Perfect. So it kind of feeds into what I've been doing for the last 6 months. So I'm Terry Schweitzer, the solid waste manager for the city of Cape Coral, and because of the hurricane, also the debris manager. So a lot of the things that for the debris removal, protecting the native species, plants, animals, in the protected is the Army Corps of Engineers issued a permit, and we have to follow that permit. And part of that permit process is what are we doing to protect burrowing owls. We got to follow all the permits, the ordinances, gopher tortoises and the like. So part of that is there's an ongoing training with the monitoring firm that oversees the debris hauler, and also the debris hauler does training with their employees. So as they're moving through, as an example, if they came across an unmarked burrowing owl location or gopher tortoises examples, then they would report those to 311 so that we could go out and get those marked. And that's some of the things that we're doing. Another example is manatees. So when they're in a saltwater canal, if they come across a manatee, then they have to follow the permit. So it's very rigid, and some of you may know about it, but it's a brief overview. They see a manatee, all work must stop, and then they have to watch the manatee, and until the manatee clears the area, then they have to wait an additional 30 minutes before they can start work again. So those are some of the things that we're doing. A lot of that is, you know, I'm kind of segueing into the next part, but for the future, also some of this things that we've been doing during Ian will also be incorporated into future debris plans. I hope that answered your question.
Councilmember Costin?
Yeah, something else came to mind. We also have a program at, I think it's Rotary Park, correct me if I'm wrong, that teaches about native landscaping, so keeping native plants in your yard. And I think we also do native plant sales, so people can put them in their yard.
Councilmember Welsh?
Yes, one of the other more recent things is this council has worked with the Cape Coral Friends of the Wildlife. As you know, we're doing the UEP up in North 2, which is, you know, where every homeowner or anyone that owns a lot up there has to pay for utilities. So what the city council has done is provided them a $100,000 grant in order to help pay for those utilities on the lots that they own, which then they keep protected for the burrowing owls and the gopher tortoises. So we've partnered with them in that way to allow them to continue to buy lots and keep that protected land for the species.
Before we move on to the next topic, what are some of you doing to help preserve, protect the environment? Yes? Recycling? Okay. A lot? Some? Everything that you have? Okay. Bella?
Personally, I'm just trying to educate myself right now in classes or in meetings like this, just to learn besides recycling and going to programs and stuff, learning what to do specifically and what actions that people in our community right now are doing that's harming the environment and how we can change that in the future.
You might tell council about the trash. You have a road that you pick up trash along. You want to brief council on what you do once a month to go out and do your part for the environment there? Member Reamer?
Sorry, mic's not working.
You got a good voice.
Do I? Okay. Well, yeah, perfect. So yeah, we go on, I think it's Pine Island and I forget the other road right now. It's coming to mind, but we clean down the main intersection of that road and we just clean up litter together as a council and with liaisons. And bond, we talk to our council members as well as cleaning our environment.
Okay. Anybody else want to?
I just want to backtrack to the, thank you, the renewable energy. I want to ask the council, how are we incentivizing solar energy into our community? We're the Sunshine State, and are we implementing that into our parks? Because going to Fort Myers and Centennial Park as an example, I see a solar tree, and it's providing shade, which kind of goes into the development as well, and as well as providing a charging station, a fun way to implement solar energy and also keep our city energized without polluting it.
Councilmember Cosner. Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Cosner.
Thank you. Please correct me if I'm wrong here, but don't we use solar on our transmission devices that we use for the city?
Can you elaborate just a little bit? Transmission?
Like the utilities devices that are around the city that transmit information to the other. I swear I've seen these with solar panels
so
on
Jeff
them.
has several things, not only solar, but also wind as well, right, Jeff,
Right.
if you want?
Yes, thank you. We utilize small solar panels and small wind turbines at some of our remote, like canal weirs that we can raise and lower. Also, some of our, mainly at those locations where we don't have ready access to an electric connection. Also, we're actually using it up at the Charlotte County Reservoir or aggregate mine that I spoke about earlier because we don't have power out there. It's a very remote location, so it really makes sense to utilize that where you don't have easy access to, LCEC power. So that's something that we've been doing for quite some time now. And we continue to look at ways that, because we're one of the largest, if you may not know this, but Utilities Department is one of the largest customers, if not the largest customer of LCEC. So some other ways that we're trying to save power is installing LED lighting that's a low voltage type lighting, and also, but to go to a grand scale like Babcock Ranch or something like that requires a lot of space. So you have to keep in mind space limitations, your footprint, but there are ways that we can continue to explore that because we are, like you said, we are the Sunshine State. We have a lot of sunshine most of the year. I think it's over 210 days or more of continuous, like just sunshine all day with hardly no clouds. So we're an excellent candidate to further renewable energy in that area.
Councilmember Welsh.
Thank you. Hearing what you said about the tree in downtown Fort Myers and how it provides solar energy for car chargers, and hearing what Mike said that all of our new parks are being built to where they have the capacity for these solar chargers when they come in. What I'm gonna do is ask our interim city manager if he can provide me a list of those parks where we're putting those base stations in the ground, because this could be a great opportunity as a project for you guys in future years, where you can go out and maybe seek a sponsor or do some sort of sponsorship where a business can provide that tree, and that tree can then be hooked up and provide power to those parks. This way we don't have to worry about who's going to pay for it, who's going to charge it, maybe do some sort of sponsorship level. So I like the idea of that, and hearing from our city manager that we have some of the underground work, which tends to usually be the most expensive part, is getting the infrastructure in there, that this could be another project for you in the future, or even one that someone on council might be able to work through. So it's a great idea that you had, and I like you bringing that up. Thank you.
So this Friday, there's a ribbon cutting event at Gator Trails Park in Gator Circle. And if you happen to attend that, or for any council members that make it there, while you're looking at the parking lot, the inner loop, so not the outer parking row against the road, all the way to the left, or to the, what would be the south, you'll notice there's two pedestals that are there. There's no facility, but the circuitry and the conduit is available for eventually, if we want to do some type of solar program for charging. And I think on a larger scale, it's not a well-known thing, but our electric provider, LCEC, purchases 100% all requirements contract through FPL, and FPL has some of the largest solar generating plants in the state of Florida, right in Babcock and throughout the state. So the power that we're actually purchasing through LCEC is coming from FPL, and FPL has invested in a lot of infrastructure in solar renewable energy.
Member Osinski?
I found it really interesting that the topic of Babcock Ranch was brought up, because when Babcock Ranch first opened, it was very environmentally focused, but it was also very expensive to live. And I kind of see Cape Coral as getting more expensive to live as well, and especially in areas where we have a big environmental presence, such as in Tarpon Point or near parks. It's generally more expensive to buy a home near a park or on a canal than it is in a more rural area. So how does council see the budget making it more accessible, not only to have an environmentally friendly city, but also a city that's carbon footprint is affordable to live in?
I think we can always explore the opportunities there, especially with the infrastructure bill that's coming out and the money that's available to us there. But there's a big difference between what Babcock Ranch is able to do and what we may not ever be able to do. And Ian taught us that Babcock Ranch is never going to experience a storm surge. They're too far inland. So they're kind of protected, and underground lines will work out there. But saltwater intrusion into underground lines actually can present more of a problem sometimes than the overhead lines. So I think we'll continue to pursue it. There are communities that do have underground lines, but I think we'll look at other opportunities for us to explore environmentally sound projects and funds that make maybe a little bit more sense for Cape Coral. I know Babcock Ranch is the model in clean energy, but it's not all necessarily perfect out there.
Okay, any other discussion on this topic? Okay, we will move on to item 5B3, which is hurricane relief. Councilmember Hayden.
I'm going to change this one around a little bit because this is one of the things that we've talked a lot about. We talked about three things at Youth Council. This is a Youth Council that's been through COVID, that's been through Ian, and is dealing with school safety. So And if you remember the video that they did for the state competition touched on their emotions and how concerned they were. So you've had a lot of time to think about it now, what you've been through. From your eyes and your vision, as we try to get more resilient and move forward from this, what are the couple of the things that you'd like to see done in our city that you feel like we might be lacking in right now? And I will call on people if, yes, Member Negron.
As I drive around Cape Coral, I noticed that our roads aren't really working for the rate at which our population is increasing, and it's leading to a lot more accidents, especially during snowbird season, which is now. What is council doing to improve Cape Coral and sustain it for this higher influx of population?
Yeah, and you want to take it?
Sure. Bring Persides up, but there is a subcommittee of council members that sit on what is known as a Transportation Advisory Commission. And this past year, they authorized moving forward with developing a citywide transportation master plan that will set forward the vision for the next 30, 40, 50 years. And Persides is leading that up, so I'll let her discuss with you all the elements and what that will do. And then also after that, kind of touch on the signals that we, how we have signal warrants and which ones they are.
Yes, so the city is growing. We're getting more people moving to the area. We are, as Mike said, we're starting the process to put together the first multimodal transportation plan for the city. So it's not geared to the automobile. We're also thinking in the pedestrian, the bicyclist, and also emerging trends like scooters, electric bikes, that type of thing. We want to look into all those aspects. So that is starting this month. And actually, we're having our first stakeholders meeting coming soon. So I'm expecting our consultant coming to your youth meetings to give you updates. So that will be good because you're going to be beneficiaries of whatever recommendations come to fruition. In addition to that multimodal master plan that is based on the vision that we have for the city, we need to accommodate all these modes of transportation. The county is working right now in replacing the Cape Coral Bridge with a 6-lane bridge with accommodation for bicycles and pedestrians too. So that is coming, that is funded. And they are also thinking in adding 1 lane in each direction at the midpoint bridge. So at the end, what is in the pipeline are 4 lanes, additional 4 lanes between Fort Myers and Cape Coral. But these have to be looked carefully because you don't want to open a bottleneck. So you open the bridges, but they also are thinking in doing improvements on the approaches to the bridges, so Cape Coral Parkway, College, Colonial, and Veterans. So that's big picture. The widening of Pornstor Road is coming, the 4-laning all the way to the county line, that's coming. So those are the big picture projects. In addition, at this time, we're doing with the Metropolitan Planning Organization a study about the evacuation routes in order to see when the city is at built-out condition based on the improvements that we have in the long-range plan to see if we can accommodate an evacuation of the city. So those are big picture issues that we have in the pipeline. That evacuation route study might help the city's case to get an interchange on I-75 at the Prado. So if we imagine that we put a line from the Prado all the way to I-75, that will be a good connectivity for the city. So now back to the day-to-day traffic. We do signal warrants for intersections that become congested. And right now we have 4 or 5 traffic signals in the pipeline for construction that have been warranted. One is at Del Prado at De Navarra. The other one is at Del Prado at Averill. Then we have Chiquita and Tropicana, Santa Barbara. I get confused. Chiquita and Tropicana, so they go kind of up. You can tell there is another one on Santa Barbara and Diplomat, and Andalusia and Kismet. So when you see the kind of the need is growing because development in the North Cape is growing. So those are improvements that are in the pipeline trying to address traffic. The county is also working on making overpasses on veterans, but those improvements are not funded at this time. But that will also help with the situation on veterans if there is an overpass at Santa Barbara.
Members Osinski and Feichthaler, one of the questions was on communication and how you all communicated with each other during the storm may have been different than how I communicated with people during the storm. Did you feel we were lacking in that area? Any suggestions on how we can improve communication?
So after the hurricane, personally, my house, we live near Tarpon Point and between Tarpon Point and Cape Harbor, so our home got flooded. And immediately after the hurricane and the first initial days, we felt, at least in our area, that there was no communication. Most of the people in our neighborhood we had left with our neighbors didn't even know the Sanibel Causeway collapsed until 3 or 4 days after the hurricane. And we had no idea who was coming into our community because no one came to us to tell us information. We didn't have our computers. We couldn't charge our phones really. We didn't have cell phone data, and our cars were flooded. Some of us couldn't even drive out of the city. So the main thing that we felt at that time was isolated. As it's improved now, I feel communication with hurricane relief, it's effective to those who seek out that information, but it's not direct to us. It may be a post on the city website, it might be posted on social media platforms, but those are areas where people, I feel like, who are seeking out information go. It's not something like the news that comes directly to us. And so that would be something I would maybe like to see with hurricane relief, is having updates maybe more consistently on the news, or updates featured in newspapers that is a way more accessible, especially to people who have limited technology accessibility right now.
For Feichthaler.
All right, are you all able to hear me? Okay. Well, the day after the hurricane, for me, the communications, obviously all the cell towers were out, so there was no service and we couldn't text each other. And we had a radio, but it didn't give us very much information at first. Over the next few days, it did give us information like the causeway collapsing and the Mount Lachey Bridge collapsing and other things like that. But there really wasn't much communication going on in the aftermath of the hurricane, because all we had was that radio and there weren't really many city trucks. I wasn't expecting many city vehicles to be on the roads, but there wasn't many vehicles at all. There was a lot of debris, so no one could really get around. And overall, I don't really think we could have improved that, since it was such a massive hurricane and did so much damage, and it's impossible to predict how to properly have infrastructure to communicate after that. But there was very little communication going on in the aftermath of the storm.
Thanks. I feel like yes, Member Bella.
we lost over a length of time. So it's nothing that the council did specifically, but it's just if you have any plans to repair either loss of education or loss of businesses trying to get back on their feet or construction of businesses.
Okay. I feel like I've stolen a little bit of Chief Lamb's thunder. Chief, did you want to kind of wrap up? We've talked a little bit about some of the questions, but if you want to wrap up the rest of them, it's your turn.
Oh, sure. My name is Ryan Lamb. I'm the fire chief for the city, but I also serve as the emergency management director here. And so just to talk a little bit about the organization. So in the fire department, we have a division manager that oversees emergency management. We have 3 emergency management coordinators, and then somebody who works on community risk reduction, all out of that area. And so emergency management is more than just hurricanes. It's everything from wildfires, tornadoes, cyber terrorism, to even, man-made other disasters. So we try and be prepared, we call all hazards, for anything that could potentially happen on a large-scale incident to our city. So specific to the hurricane, I've said this and I'll repeat myself, but I've never been on a perfect incident. I've never gone to a structure fire, a brush fire, a tornado, and had everything go absolutely perfect. And so when we go through now looking back, and we're doing what's called an after-action report, we're working with an outside consultant that they're actually going to interview every member of our council, a group called Unified Command, which is the police chief, the fire chief, the city manager, and the public works director. That's kind of the core group. All of our other city directors are all going to be interviewed as part of that process. Other important stakeholders like the Chamber of Commerce, Cape Coral Construction Industry Association, all of those folks are going to get interviewed to see some of those areas that we can look at continually improving on. And so I think that kind of goes into the first section here. We've identified a number of things already that we can continue to improve on, and those things will actually be done into a report with recommendations of things that we'll look at adopting into, whether it be additional training, some of the ways that we do things. There's a lot of things that worked really well this time, like things that we had in contract. If we had a contract for our debris hauler, or a contract for equipment rentals, instead of trying to go, hey, where can we get this from? It was, oh, let's activate that contract and here we go. Some other things like communications, we've talked about. It's a really tough subject on how you do that, because when you're, as you mentioned, there's no power, there's no cell phone, there's no internet. Basically as many people as can hear me standing at the front steps of the EOC, providing information is what we can get out. And so some things, talking with our communications team, that we're now people that had radios. And so it's trying to pre-work with those radio partners and knowing at 10 o'clock in the morning and 5 o'clock in the evening, will be fixed times that the city will come on and provide radio messages. We talked about having our trucks drive up and down the street, we'll go over the PA and provide information, but that really wasn't a great idea. It kind of, startles people, and then how much information are you going to get as somebody, drives by at 30 miles an hour. So one of the things we do know is that, there's one city hall right here, right in the middle of our 120 square miles, but fire stations are out in every neighborhood. And so something we did during the storm was trying to advertise that you can go to the fire station and get information. And so the firefighters were really busy out running calls. We were incredibly busy. But what we do is we have somebody who might work for the city that their job isn't, needed during the hurricane. And so we have them go there, and we went old school. We printed flyers every day. And if somebody came by, they could get an updated information there. We'd have somebody to answer some of those questions, and we even had a power strip because the fire stations have a generator, so we can get somebody to charge up their device in the short term until we got hygiene stations and some of those things put up. So that's a really difficult thing. We've also talked about doing some of those signs that would, like the ones you see about change your lane or whatever, that would direct people to the fire station. Because as much as we're going to try and advertise that in advance, people forget about it, and so that's a spot that people can go to. We also did something called Supplies on the Streets, and so in areas, especially down in that southern perimeter of the city, where we had people that literally swam out of their houses and came to Fire Station 9 or Fire Station 1, where they can't get some of the supplies at the points of distribution. So we loaded up trucks and drove them and started passing out supplies, and we would include flyers with that information as well to try and get that information out. So other things, we're trying to be creative, but when you're literally taken back to the 1800s here, no power, no water, no, all these things, it gets really difficult. You go back to, there's a board that you just hang up notices on to try and get the information out. Some of the other questions that were on here talking about sheltering and evacuations. So we are a partner with the county, but the legislative authority for those things still reside with the county for sheltering and evacuations. So when it comes to calling for an evacuation, we have 2 representatives of the city. One is the assistant city manager over at the Lee County EOC, and one is a member of law enforcement from our police department to help coordinate areas that we think would be even spots to kind of request for an evacuation. And then sheltering is very difficult. There's one shelter, it's Island Coast High School, that's in the city, and that fits, if we press it, it can go up to 3,300 people in there. And so a difficult part about that is we're approaching 800,000, approaching 1 million people here in Lee County. Right now there's shelter availability in Lee County for about 40,000 people. So that you can see there's a large deficit there. And so the thought there is that I always say a shelter is a life raft, not a cruise ship, right? And so it's basically going to be a taped square on a gym floor for you to save your life. That's the goal. And so if you want to have a spot that's more comfortable for those that have means, the ability to go stay with friends or family or get a hotel someplace a little bit outside the area. One of the things we learned from Hurricane Irma is we don't need folks to go all the way to Maine, right? I don't need you to go all the way to Atlanta to get away from the surge here. You just got to get a little away from the coast, because the adage we use is you run from the water, you hide from the wind. Looking back at research, what kills people in a hurricane is the surge. And so getting people out of that surge area. Talking a little bit about that communication, I think we had some message fatigue, because people from Hurricane Charlie to Hurricane Irma, they'd heard, evacuate, all those things. And, we've never had that, we've never seen that. And then, it finally happened, right? This was our worst case scenario for Cape Coral, a strong storm that slows down. If you look at a storm and you kind of draw crosshairs through it, the northeast corner is the most dangerous weather, the most tornadoes, hardest winds, all those things. So that's the part that we got. And then if it hits just north of us, tropical cyclones are spin counterclockwise, and so as it goes past us, it's going to shove us full of all that surge. And so that's unfortunately what happened. Sheltering, we are working with the county to harden some of our other schools. As you can imagine, you want to put people in shelters that are very hardened and protected. And so there's a very stiff criteria what qualifies and what doesn't. So we're working with the county to try and get additional facilities hardened so that we can increase some of that capacity. But that's a tough situation there as well. I would also say that, certainly the evacuations, there was a lot of uncertainty in the forecast as the storm approached. And so when it was called for, I know we did our best to try and go out as a city and announce that too, that, when people call for, when officials call for an evacuation, it's not something that's done lightly. There's actually some studies that show when we call for an evacuation in an area that somebody's actually going to perish, whether it be from a heart attack or in a vehicle accident. And so calling for that, we do that because we want to try and maximize saving lives, because we believe that staying in that area is dangerous. So I would say I am almost as busy the month after the storm today as I was about a month after the storm. We are very active as a city. The mayor sits on a Lee County Resilience Task Force. We've got a group here across the city. There's 8 branches that have been developed out of that group to work on everything from arts and culture to infrastructure and workforce and education. All those things are coming out of that. There is about $339 million in called hazard mitigation grant dollars. And so that is how do we harden our city so that we're more resilient the next time a storm impacts us. And there's also been an announcement of $1.1 billion for it's called community block redevelopment grants. So housing for low and moderate income folks and other services related to some of that population. In addition to that, there's things like state appropriations. So there's lots of dollars that are now just beginning to come in, and we're talking about the process that's going to take 4 to 5 years to see some of these projects come through to completion. So it's not a sprint. It's definitely a marathon. We are just getting out of what I call the intermediate phase of hurricane recovery. Other things that you guys can do if you want to get more involved. I know there's a question about first aid training. So first, the fire department offers free CPR training. So CapeCoralFire.com. You can go there and sign up for a free CPR class. It's in English and Spanish. In addition to that, if you want to get even more involved, we do offer what's called our CERT team, our Community Emergency Response Team. So folks, I think you have to be 16 to sign up for it, but you can participate in that. It teaches you everything from how to help your neighbor during a storm or how to get more involved in helping other folks in our community during a natural disaster. Now this year, we're already, June 1st is the beginning of next hurricane season, and so we're already working as a city to get prepared for that next go-round. So there's something that was put out about an art contest out to the schools on kind of drawing your family's preparedness plans as a way to help get other folks engaged. That art that's selected out of that, they'll get a prize, and some of that art will be used in some of our literature. We're also working on a Hurricane Expo, and then Hurricane Kickoff here with Council, and we're going to do a community one. Last year, we also focused on a Hurricane Kickoff for elderly population, and then another one for families with children with autism. So trying to work with a lot of different groups to get folks as prepared as possible. And just glancing down here, did I hit all the things?
I think you hit on it. Any
Okay.
follow-up questions for him? No? Council?
Any council comments on that topic? Okay, we'll move on to item 5B4, which is our vision of Cape Coral. Councilmember Hayden.
Yeah, and that's your title for it, so I'm going to start this with, for this council's information, this group will be writing the first ever strategic plan in a couple weeks at a special meeting. So I would like to hear from some of you on what you would like to see in that strategic plan. We talked a lot about last year about what you want this city to look like through your eyes. So now's your opportunity to tell us some of the things that you're deeply interested in and how you might want to see that move forward in the future. So who's first? Yes.
So our first question is, can Cape Coral begin to strengthen its bond with neighboring cities? And I know this is an important topic, and at the Florida League of Cities conference, me and Member Arevalo talked about it with the Fort Myers Youth Council on collaborating and maybe doing some sort of projects together, since we are very close and a lot of us travel to and from Fort Myers very often. So what can we do to strengthen the bond with Fort Myers and other neighboring cities?
So you know that teacher that you have that will say to you, they'll put you on the spot and say, well, what would you do? So what would you do?
I'd like to collaborate on some future projects, maybe something in the parks or some event we could do to bring awareness to a certain topic. I know some topics we've been covering in our meetings are education about school safety and all the topics that are entailed with that. So yeah, just doing events or projects together would be something I would do.
Okay. Member Arevalo.
So this was a question I actually had. It is going to be a suggestion right now, but I did put it on the questions for the education and school safety topic. But what I said was, are you guys interested in creating a joint city council and school board subcommittee or regular committee? I did a little bit of research and I saw in New Jersey a lot of their cities actually have their school boards and city councils work together, and they have a committee. Well, then make events to talk about ideas that they want to implement in their schools, and they'll have those designated council members research about what their city is wanting and their ideas from their citizens, and work together in those meetings. Another place is Oregon, that actually has been doing it since January. They've been having meetings just like this, a joint council meeting, but with the school board. So I feel like we could definitely do that. I don't know how that works with Sunshine or any of the laws that we have in Florida and Cape Coral with their city council, but I feel like this would be such a good idea to implement here.
It's a great idea. I think we're continuing to have discussions with Lee County to have a joint meeting, and yes, we can do it as long as it's advertised appropriately. I need to say that for our city clerk. But yes, I think any time that we can bring groups together that make the key decisions for the county or the city and have that public conversation on issues that we both deal with and the school board's a great idea. Who else? Yes.
Similar to how Member Arevalo talked about joint council meetings with the school board, when we went to the Florida League of Cities conference, it was really nice to be able to sit and talk about political topics with other youth councils. But I was wondering if the city council meets and has joint councils with neighboring cities, such as Fort Myers City Council, and if so, how often?
I think Chief Lamb alluded to it. The mayor currently sits on a recovery committee with the county and other municipal leaders. Three of us just got back from the National League of Cities, where we were able to have conversations with the cities about how they're dealing with affordable housing, the Farm Bill, other things that impact communities. Florida League of Cities has been mentioned. You'll be going up to that next week to share ideas with other councils. So we're an active participant in our Tourist Development Council. So we're more engaged, I think, than we've really ever been with making sure people understand that Cape Coral is a player. We're not going to be forgotten, and especially now as we recover from the hurricane. What else about your vision for the city? Yes.
This deters away from talking to other councils, but one of the questions I did provide, I know I'm most likely going to stay in Cape Coral, but my older brother resides in Cape Coral and he rents in downtown Cape Coral, and I want to see a change. I obviously know that housing is increasing, and I wanted to see if there was any way that the city council could help, or even the youth council can help provide the youth renting in Cape Coral, maybe even buying a house, but maybe grants, maybe $1,000 tax benefit or something like that could be implemented in our city.
I think there's two projects that I could mention that are happening in the downtown Cape area now. You have the Cove at 47th, which is a multi-use project, but there will be, I don't have the exact numbers, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 300 condo units that will be available, and then there's also the Bimini West project, which will also have a parking garage. The one project, the Cove at 47th, is about a $100 million project. The Bimini West project is about a $70 million project. So you're going to see in the next few years, you're going to see a large influx of units that I think will be available and probably cater to the younger generation. The concept is you'll be able to work, play, and live in the same area. And so those two projects, I think, will be catalyst-type projects for that particular area. Additionally, I'd like to back up just a little bit as well. When you talked about collaboration with other cities, and I will tell you, there is a organization called Southwest Florida League of Cities. I am one of the executive board members of that, and that's a majority of the cities here in Southwest Florida are a part of that organization. So, we meet every other month. We discuss a variety of topics or issues that each city may be facing to see, how our partnering cities nearby, how they are addressing a particular, issue that they may be having in their community. Additionally, I am on the Florida League of Mayors and the Florida League of Cities Board of Directors, and we do that same very similar thing there to discuss a variety of topics and how each particular city maybe addressing those topics. Additionally, there is another board that I was appointed to. It's called the Florida League of Cities Big Coalition Board. We meet quarterly. Last month was in Orlando, where there's about 10 mayors that are on that board, and we travel every quarter throughout the state. This program just started last year. It's about our second or third meeting. So that's a golden opportunity, especially for me. We address anything from housing, transportation needs, just a variety of needs that the larger cities. It's the 10 most populated cities that are on that board. That's why I'm one of them. But, you know, the bigger cities have some additional challenges as some of the smaller cities. You know, there's 411 either cities or villages throughout the state. So there's a wide range of a variety of needs for those cities. So this particular board, the Big Coalition Board, really addresses the big city needs. And so it's a great opportunity for me to really discuss and have a candid conversation with the other mayors from those cities, along with the Florida League of Cities staff that are there for those meetings. That's what I do, and try to gather as much information that I can bring back here to our city as a result of those meetings. I have a few lights on. Councilmember Steichen.
Thank you. You know, one of the issues certainly with keeping our graduating students and, you know, young professionals in our area is the affordability of the housing that you're looking for. Our mayor participates on a task force that will do all that it can to get the dollars that are coming into our area, where a portion of them have to be dedicated towards affordable housing options, whether it be single-family or multifamily homes. So that's certainly something that's coming down the pike, where there's dollars available, and we'll do all that we can. And I know we have other members of our staff that are involved in that as well, to make sure that we get the dollars that come into the area that can attract the developers and builders that will create the housing opportunities that people need to stay here and to live where they work. Next Monday, there's actually a groundbreaking for a facility that's meant to do just that, considered workforce housing, and it's called Civitas of Cape Coral. So that groundbreaking will happen, so watch the news, show up if you like. It is a very early morning one, 7:30 to 8:30 in the morning, but you'll be hearing more about that housing opportunity that will be coming out of the ground here pretty soon.
Councilmember Welsh.
Thank you. I like the idea of collaborating maybe with other youth councils on a project to bring our cities together. So I personally haven't attended the Southwest Florida League of Cities meeting. Maybe something Mayor Gunter can work, that maybe if you guys want to or send a representative, you can reach out to the other city leaders that are there to see if they have youth councils that want to join in on a project and set something up that way. So that would be a good way to reach out to other mayors and other council members that are part of that league. And if they don't have a youth council, maybe encourage them of what you guys have done to maybe set one up in their own cities as well. So I do like that idea of collaborating with other cities and other youth councils, and that might be the avenue where you can do that, is that Southwest Florida League of Cities meeting.
Any other lights on?
Nope.
No. I think, yes, Member Bellet.
Well, back to what you were saying about kind of what we wanted to see in Cape Coral. When Mayor Gunter mentioned Cove on 47th, I just remembered because I was kind of reading into that since before it broke ground. And so kind of more things, I guess, in Cape Coral like Cove on 47th, where they have that like multitude of different amenities within it, and also a diversity of amenities that like just like new things in Cape Coral that people can go to and have fun with, I guess, or have like new businesses. And also additionally with that, public transportation, I think I know we have public transportation, but to kind of enforce on it and make it more accessible and more encouraged, I guess, within the city, because I think it's important environmentally, and it's just a good thing to have.
One other thing I'd like to mention, being on the Hurricane Recovery Task Force, and you heard it mentioned earlier tonight that, got about $2.3 billion coming to the state of Florida through the CDBG-DR Disaster Relief Fund. And that's only happened 8 times in our nation. That type of funding mechanism that's been put in place as a result of a disaster recovery initiative in a particular area. So we are very fortunate here in Lee County. This is the first time ever that $1.1 billion have been allocated to one county. So that's never ever happened before. So we definitely have a golden opportunity here with that amount of money that we'll be able to apply to the needs of the residents of Lee County. Now, as a part of that program, 70% of that $1.1 billion has to go towards housing and a criteria for housing. So when you talk about some of these projects that you had mentioned, I know that's one of the things that we will do here at the city is how could we utilize that funding mechanism to have more housing projects similar to the COVID 47 or Bimini West, where you have multi-use type projects. So I think we have a golden opportunity to explore that and to see what we can bring to the city of Cape Coral. Now just keep in mind all of the other cities in unincorporated Lee County will be trying to get to that 1.1 billion. But I know here at the city actually this week, one of the things that I work with the city manager to try to implement is to have an executive team here with staff at the city of Cape Coral to identify those needs and to make sure moving forward that we can put a great plan in place. Some of the other jurisdictions that have had this opportunity, which have been very few, like I mentioned, the ones that benefited the most were the cities or the municipalities that had the best plan in place. So I think that's our job as the city to make sure we have a great plan in place so we can advocate for those federal dollars at the Hurricane Task Force meetings to be able to bring that money back here to the city of Cape Coral.
You know, one of the things you mentioned at last year's meeting was the park system and how you like to have places where you could get together and talk. Are you all using the parks? Kind of, maybe, a little bit? Okay. Well, we'll encourage you to do that. How's that? Mr. City Manager, just probably one question I think that may kind of get to summing everything up here that they asked is Cape Coral responsibly building and zoning the city for future generations to handle? Is the construction itself efficient? And combine that with, and how does that connect with what we're trying to do to preserve the environment?
I'm going to have Vince discuss how we look to the future in our planning efforts and understanding the needs of the community, whether it be, the city's only so big, and so we have to allocate that space to different uses and different types of developments. So I'll have him kind of explain that process and then how it's playing out.
Okay. Building code is very stringent in the state of Florida, and that happened after Hurricane Andrew in the early 1990s down in South Florida, here in Miami-Dade County. When you looked at some of the new buildings in the city after Ian, they were in relatively good shape, some without a scratch on them. Now, of course, depending on where they were, the angle of the wind and so forth, but for the most part, they held up really well. So the codes have been kept up to date, and the code is written by a group of professionals, and it's called the Florida Building Commission, people with direct experience in construction management. As far as what we try to do to integrate our land use planning and zoning in order to have development that can provide all the services that people want and expect in a city of our size, it becomes a little difficult, as Mike stated, because we have a limited amount of land, but the council is very committed towards using the amount of land that's zoned commercial for those purposes in order so that we might have more commercial development to help alleviate the tax burden on our residences. So that's what the city is all about in terms of its future growth in order to have a mix of uses. And what we try to do in individual developments is have developers develop what we call mixed use. And very simply what that means is they have a combination of different things. You might have commercial with some office space, maybe an educational facility, or and/or residential, rather than just straight residential development, because we have tens of thousands of lots yet to develop on in the city. We estimate the build-out population to be somewhere between 20, probably a little later than 2050, 2060, 70, at over 400,000 people, maybe 450,000 people. So that's a big city compared to statistics, no matter, I think, where you go. So in order to balance that, we have to try to give in one area and take in another area and try to give developers more incentives to develop commercial, and that was talked about a few moments ago when you talked about mixed-use development and incentives to developers. Most of the incentives that developers have sought over the years is, I'll do more of this, I'll do a little bit more commercial if you give me more houses or apartments to build. Maybe there's different ways to look at that right now. Maybe we entice them to have more green space and open space and maybe more commercial, and it's tax incentives. It's not more residential units. So that's what the city council is trying to do in their strategic plan, provide a wealth of services for people, not just what we call service industries, the basics that you need to survive in a community, but actually bring in office buildings with higher paying jobs in the community. We have a full-time economic development manager working on that. These developments that we're seeing downtown are very encouraging, and the mayor mentioned those right now, and the affordable housing project that Councilmember Stanky mentioned too, with the groundbreaking next week, is very encouraging because a lot of people are rent burdened in the city because that's extremely important. And we're not we're not one of the major cities in the country where there are other options for people to, like rent control and so forth. That's just not an issue down here. It's not practiced. So we have to try to give developers other incentives. So from a building standpoint, I think the state is in very good shape. From a local planning and zoning standpoint, we're working very hard. So.
Thank you, Vince.
Comments, follow-up questions? Member Osinski?
One thing I kind of talked about at our last youth council meeting when we were discussing the agenda for this meeting was, I guess, what I would like to call like productive infrastructure. Kind of like driving down the street, like I really don't want to see another storage center. I really think sometimes in Cape Coral specifically, it can end up focusing on the two extremes of like young families with young children and the elderly population, and that kind of middle area of teenagers isn't really as prominently built for. And I would like to see like maybe in the future of Cape Coral seeing a little more attention paid specifically to a teen-based design. Maybe having like a satellite campus of a college is one thing I feel would be really beneficial for us, and having possibly a teen center or more spaces dedicated for people to connect throughout their city, especially with teens, and connecting those different generations together rather than segregating them to specific areas in the city. And I understand the importance of storage centers, obviously, but they're very ugly and they take up a lot of space. And that space could definitely be used, especially for teenagers who right now don't really necessarily have a lot of space for themselves in the city.
Great point. points, and I'm not sure there's a week goes by that we're not talking about storage facilities or car washes. But you know, I think there's studies underway now about looking at community centers, Olympic-sized swimming pools, different things that'll engage your age group maybe a little bit more than what we have here now. Any other? Yes, sir.
So, talking about my vision, I think the biggest things that I've always focused on, especially when I joined the youth council, I kind of wanted to focus on education and environmentalism. And I think I want to see for the council itself, I want to see a lot of support for getting quality educators, because I know we're seeing teacher shortages, and I've been to school, and I get a substitute for weeks and then maybe a quarter and then a semester, and still without a teacher. I just want to see incentivizing teachers and getting quality educators into our city. And Member Rosinski talks about getting a college, and we need to motivate our city to get these educators and get this kind of power and education for all our students. And I think it's imperative to get a joint committee like Member Arvalo was mentioning, where we're working with the school districts to implement all these different ideas that we have for our city and our students. And then going back to the environmentalism, I know we're having the new transportation. I think that's great, where we can support the electric bikes, electric scooters, and the solar parks as well.
Great points. We're having a meeting tomorrow night where we're talking about a project called Hudson Creek, which will bring about 3,500 dwelling units to that. But I believe the plan may have included an education component to that, a satellite campus. So that'll have to be discussed in the future. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
This is a lot shorter than the last question. I promise.
You're fine.
Does the council ever see Cape Coral having a homeless shelter in the future?
Well, I think we continue to work with the Lee County Homeless Coalition. We continue to talk with our counterparts in the other cities. It's a region issue, not just a city issue. We know we have homeless here. It was certainly a big topic up at National League of Cities on how they're dealing with their homelessness and the money that might be available for them. You know, people put CARES money towards it. People put ARPA money towards the homeless population. So I think it's an ongoing conversation. We know we're not doing enough because they are there, especially after Ian. We know there's still people living in their cars. You know, there's a lot of veterans that are homeless. So I think it's something we're going to continue to work at with our colleagues and see if we can find some solutions.
Councilmember Cosby.
I was just going to say the same thing, just that it's a county, not that it's not a city issue, but the county has a group of organizations and government entities that work together on that issue. So it wouldn't just be a city initiative, it would be a group initiative. Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of the funding for those type of programs go directly to the county. So it'd be more of a county-wide initiative.
Okay. One, I want to thank all of you for being here, participating, your great questions, your great feedback, just like last year. We will always keep your ideas front and center. I always want you to know that this group is listening to you, and we always will. And that's the importance of a meeting like this. I'm sorry I made you cry, but I wanted everyone to hear the impact.
He does that to me, so don't worry.
Yeah. The impact that moment had for you, and that sometimes always run, hide, fight may not work. So, I think you had their attention, the school administrator and the police chief, and so thank you for what you do, and we got a couple big meetings coming up in April. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll give council the last opportunity. You got any comments, any remarks about our meeting tonight? I just want to say thank you to the youth council as well. We look forward to getting your perspective on issues here in the city. As you well know, that you have a different perspective than maybe some of us up here. So in order to help us make the good informed decisions here in our city, it's always it's always good to hear another perspective on any topic. So thank you for coming tonight, and we enjoyed, your participation tonight. Time and place of a future meeting. We have a special meeting of the Cape Coral City Council is scheduled for tomorrow, Thursday, March 30th, 2023, beginning 4:30 p.m. here in Council Chambers. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.